Okay, hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Ryan Embry, Director of Marketing. We are going to be doing this live today, so I am very excited to share this presentation with you all. This is our final webinar for 2022. Just so thankful for all the feedback and all the people that have joined us on our educational boot camps and master classes all year long, and I'm super excited to share this presentation with you. If you're not familiar with Travel Media Group, we respond to a lot of guest reviews. In fact, we hit the 1 million guest review mark just this summer. So in doing that, you learn a lot when you respond to over 1 million guest reviews. So we're going to take some time today to learn some trends heading into the new year and how you, the hotelier, can leverage review response. We're going to talk about that a little later. But before we get started, if you have any questions or feedback, please feel free to type that into your chat box there. We are going to have an interactive poll at the very end. Would absolutely love your participation in it. The more we can get participation, the better and better to know some more content and topics for us to share with you all out there. So thank you. Let's get rolling here with the top 5 review response trends for hotels and hotel groups in 2023. And it starts with trend number 1. Reviews are becoming more important, not less, making those responses critical. So as you can see, I've got a lot of logos up here, and it just absolutely breaks my heart to talk to some hoteliers who just say, you know, are reviews really that important? And the answer is obviously a resounding yes, but you look at just the way that reviews are now integrating into our everyday lives. I'm sure a lot of people have been up there in Amazon doing some holiday shopping. You're running across a lot of reviews and ratings for those products that you're looking to buy. Lyft, Uber, these are places where our drivers actually have ratings, and sometimes you're even rated as a passenger. Netflix and Rotten Tomatoes, we're always looking for the next series to binge or movie to watch, and we base those decisions on ratings and what people think. Facebook, we know Facebook recommendations is huge. So even social media has a review component to its platform. YouTube, we like and dislike, we comment on videos, and Uber Eats, we are obviously rating the restaurants that we're ordering food from. But if you notice, out of all of these logos and places that we're seeing reviews in our every single day life, one of the only places that we're able to tell our story is the places where hotels leave reviews, OTAs, Google, TripAdvisor. So these reviews are becoming so much more integrated into our everyday lives, making these responses critical. But some reviews mean more than others. And what I mean by that is that now places like Google and TripAdvisor are actually rewarding users for leaving feedback. And we don't know how helpful or influential these reviews can be, right? So we typically talk about influencers on social media, but now it's kind of blending into the review and response side of our business, where Carol over here on the left-hand side is a level 5 local guide. She is gaining points by leaving review and feedback, and you can see how influential her voice is online based on the number of views. Over 100,000 people have seen the content that Carol has put out there. So we don't know when a Carol walks into our hotel and leaves a review and how important that is. We need to act as if every single one of our guests is this influential online, and that makes responding to these reviews ever more critical. If you look over here to the right-hand side, Brian G., this is a TripAdvisor user. Funny enough, we're now in a space where you can actually review a review, and you can find it either helpful or unhelpful. So again, guests are looking at these reviews and certainly looking at the way that us as hoteliers are responding. And that kind of leads us into trend number 2, which is guests are using review response to score your customer service skills as a hotel. I'm going to go back to Amazon. Now, if you were with me during our review response masterclass or boot camp, I might have mentioned what I'm dubbing the Amazon effect. So I tried to, again, with the holiday shopping, I tried to find a product on Amazon that had a stellar reputation. So over 135,000 reviews for this blanket, right? And it's almost near a 5-star, and it's an Amazon choice. But with this Amazon effect, we go on to Amazon and we look, and it's human nature to kind of say, okay, well, I know this is not a perfect product, so let me go ahead and kind of scour through reviews to see if I can find any negative feedback. And we're actually seeing that with Amazon showcasing and highlighting a top positive review and a top critical review. So this is just a blanket that we're talking about. Think about a hotel experience where our guests are spending now, in some markets, higher rates than they ever have before. So if they are looking through your reviews, they would want to see, okay, well, what happens if, right? So this is what I want to kind of show this in hotel form. So during the pandemic, a lot of hotels kind of leaned against and laid back on their overall score. And as hoteliers, we thought guests were really taking a look at that overall score, but it really didn't have as much relevancy because this was a completely new experience for them, right? We were in the middle of a pandemic, COVID-19 was happening. So guess what they were actually looking at was the recency of your reviews and your first page. So yes, they would maybe take that 4.5 into account, but it was really the recent reviews. And it was the hotels that understood this that were able to capture more market share because they were showing the best guest experience at that time, which is what guests are currently looking for and travelers are currently looking for in this environment. We haven't shifted away from that quite yet. So again, I'm going to show this Amazon effect really as an example in our industry. So this is a 1-star review, obviously left here, and it's really talking about cleanliness and the fact that housekeeping didn't attend to the property one time. Now you could have a ton of 5-star reviews talking about your breakfast, check-in, pool, your other amenities, and it could all be surrounding this one negative review. But now as a traveler, in my mind, I'm going, there's a problem here. I'm going to maybe go through the reviews to see if I can see if this is a common problem. And that's why it's so important so even if you're receiving a bunch of 5-star reviews, the way that you respond to that one critical review is how guests are going to score your customer service skills. And if you do, this was this was professionally done by our review response team at Travel Media Group, a great response to this type of review. But we will caution, if they continue to look for these reviews and then we have a very similar type response, they're going to score your customer service skills lower because they're going to see that obviously there's an issue here that's not being corrected at the property. So this is really important. If you're going to have solutions and resolutions on your reviews, make sure there's follow through, because even if there's some time between these negative reviews, travelers could find themselves at those two things and they will be comparing how you respond. And obviously, if we have no response or even a templated response, they're going to score your customer service skills very, very low. So think of these negative reviews as an opportunity to really showcase and highlight everything that your hotel can do for peace of mind for that guest who right now, again, might be spending more than they did pre-COVID to stay at your property. Let's continue to trend number 3. And this one I absolutely love, right? Because we talk about responding obviously to the person that left us the review. We're also talking, if you want to take it one level higher, we're actually talking to the guest or the traveler that hasn't booked with you yet, prospective travelers. We're also talking to one more, and I would argue one of the most important things, we're talking to Google and search engines. So this was an example. Our headquarters are here in Maitland, just north of Orlando. And this was a great little experiment I did by just typing 2 words into Google and look at how Google is trying to predict as a traveler what I'm going to say. And we see this with questions. We see this with, obviously when people do search intent for buying, purchasing. So we can speak again to prospective travelers based on the topics that we're seeing here from Google. We can also speak to Google in our reviews. So this was a great example. Thank you so much for your incredible 5-star review. We're so pleased to hear that you took advantage of our convenient location close to the Orlando airport and enjoyed our pet-friendly amenities perfect for our furry guests. We'll be sure to pass your gratitude to the drivers of our shuttle to Disney World and let them know how much you appreciated their service. We hope to see you again the next time you're in Orlando. So this covers all 3 of these searches and certainly signals to Google that when you're searching, this hotel is relevant there. I will give you a quick tip or error of caution. This is why we never want to repeat negative sentiment back to our guests. So if somebody's accusing our, being unclean or dirty, we never want to use those words. Again, potentially lining us up to show Google something we're not looking to market or advertise. So again, we're using this as a tool. And if you want to do an exercise for the hoteliers that are on this, if you want to do an exercise to see what Google essentially is thinking about your property, there is a really cool tool called Google's Top Things to Know. So all you have to do, search your property online just like a traveler would, and Google's actually compiling all that review information. As you can tell, they're getting all of their info from their reviews, and they're compiling a list of Google's top things to know. So on the left-hand side, this is a little bit smaller market, so you might have 2 to 3 top things to know. This on the right-hand side was an Orlando property, so that's had a lot more things. But I challenge you, after we're done with this webinar, go on to Google, type in your property, and see what Google thinks your top things to know are, and see how these reviews are impacting that. Very, very important there. We're moving right along. Trend number 4. So this one's really unique. Travelers want to see your hotel's personality, and responses give them a sneak peek. So those hoteliers that might know or might have Chick-fil-A in their market, one of their famous taglines, obviously, when you say thank you to an associate, is my pleasure. This is a part of their personality. This is online, or this is actually offline, but it's become a part of their brand. Disney World, again, we're in Orlando. All the associates and team members, cast members as they call them, have a magical day. This is all part of Disney's personality, and McDonald's does a fantastic job of being kind of that witty, smart person on social media. They have a really funny social posts there, but they're trying to give their business a personality, so it's not just burgers and fries. Now, these are some pretty extreme examples here, but for hotels, we can do this based on maybe the travelers that are coming in, trying to set the tone that we want, and give them, all right, what is a feeling of the guest experience that when that traveler walks in through our lobby doors, that we are trying to give them. So here's a great example of 2 different, or 2 of the same message, but done in completely different ways. And the best visual I can kind of give you here, and I've only picked 3 examples, is this spectrum, and if you haven't thought about this with your team already for your specific property, I would say do an exercise like this. Get your team members together, kind of create this spectrum and ask them, where do you think we fall on this? And see if that consistent voice is there. Now, we work with economy, independent, all the way up to responding reviews to Waldorf Astorias, Marriott properties, and every single hotel partner that we respond to review with has a unique voice. And that's what we want to get. That's what we want to get across to our guests and travelers. In fact, this is a great time to take a screenshot. I will not go through all this. It's a pretty dense slide, but this is exactly what we talk to our hotel partners about when we onboard them. Looking at details like, how do you want the intro, the signature to be? What makes your property unique so that we can speak to that? What are some common, pitfalls in your hotel experience? Everyone knows those. And how do you want to respond? As you saw on the last slide, one of the things was apologetic versus non-apologetic. Some of our hotel partners would rather not see we're sorry, they'd rather see an explanation. Some would rather have a more empathetic approach to the guest. So these are all things that really should be answered at the property and being consistent, with the goal being that no matter who is responding to your reviews, whether it's your front desk manager, your GM, your DOS, whether it's a new GM that just started, there should be a consistency within your hotel's voice. Whether it's Travel Media Group doing your review response, you should have this playbook that says, when someone talks about my breakfast positively, these are the things that I want to highlight. If they mention this negatively, how can I respond to set expectations for travelers in the future? And this playbook really should be your guide for review response and gives the guest a sneak peek into what they can expect at your property. So let's get to the final trend here. Hotels are now using review responses as a sales and marketing tool. And I love this visual here. You know, this evolution for review response really happened about 5 to 7 years ago. And just look at the brands when it comes to this evolution about the way that they're treating review responses now. Some even going as far as finding hotels that aren't responding in a timely manner. So before this, these hotels really fell into two buckets: those that didn't respond and those that did respond. But now in 2023, there's this third bucket, right? And it's those that use response as a sales and marketing tool. And that's really where Travel Media Group sits in this bucket of hoteliers. I mean, there are other companies that do review response for that middle bucket, but for Travel Media Group, we use review response as a sales and marketing tool, highlighting the things that are important for your guests and travelers and making sure that hotel's voice is coming across consistently. Review response, social media, and all the above. So, you know, one of the last things we'll touch on, I know we covered these trends, but one of the last things we touch on is a question that we get quite a lot. And, you know, I sit here in our Travel Media Group headquarters, and I hear a lot of conversations out there talking about the ROI of responding to reviews, right? And really the best way that we can kind of illustrate that is a couple things we'll tell you, but thinking about maybe the ROI of our landscaping outside, right? We know how important our landscaping is. We know how important the paint on the outside of our hotels, because we want to give a certain impression when our guests come in. And that's exactly what review response gives you the opportunity to do. But to take some recent data to kind of further that and take that one step closer, there was a study done by Harvard Business Journal that said when hotels start responding, they receive 12% more reviews and their ratings increase by 0.12 stars. Now, 0.12 stars, you might say, Ryan, you know, that doesn't sound that impressive, but TripAdvisor actually has a rounded system, meaning that they do not have quarter stars. So if you are a 4.27 on TripAdvisor, you will look as a 4.5 star on TripAdvisor. If you have a 4.24, then you have a 4-star reputation, even though you're right there on the cusp. So when you talk about those rounded scores, it makes a lot of difference. And as you can see, the second part of this stat, almost a third of the hotels increase their rounded ratings by half a star or more within 6 months of their first response. So this really goes into, you know, that Cornell study that I'm sure all of us, you know, all our hoteliers, or if you went to hospitality school, learned about. If a hotel increases its review scores by just 1 point, the hotel can increase its price by 11.2%. So all of these things work together and really show this, you know, this path of when you start responding, you increase the number of reviews, which increases your ratings, and then you can increase rates and obviously become more competitive. So that's obviously one side of it to show, you know, the ROI of responding to reviews, but there's so much more to it. And one of the things that we can provide for our hotel partners is giving you back time, which is the most precious commodity for hoteliers, right? You know, we recently conducted our annual NPS survey for our current customers that are working with us. And one of the loudest pieces of feedback that we were receiving from our hotel partners is your review response program has given me back more time to do room inspections, more time to talk to my team members and training and staff, or time to actually sit down and talk to my guests and do what I do best. So time is a huge ROI factor when talking about review response. And finally, sentiment, right? If you've been there after an 8-hour or double shift or even a night audit shift because your night auditor called out and you've got to sit behind your computer and type this response to this 1-star review that they completely hammer you online, that takes a toll. It takes an emotional toll. And that's the other piece of feedback that we receive is this overall makes them happier at their job because they're doing the things that they enjoy at the property. So, there are tons of factors as we get into ROI responding to reviews. We would love to chat with you about them. Like I said, we have responded to over 1 million and are working across brands. So as we wrap up this final webinar of 2022, I am going to go ahead and launch a poll